Beyond bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises. It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal, and Rovers have taken the lead. And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to another edition of On the Other Side with me, Ryan Hildred from Rovers Chat. And even though that thing said day 9, I can assure you it's day 16 of the Rovers Chat advent calendar, as the content just keeps rolling on, and I can't believe it's day 16 already. And yeah, last time out for Rovers, what a result down on the South Coast. An excellent 2-0 away victory, as promotion and Rovers were two words that may be just starting to get a bit more believable. So who knows? And 3 games out of the next 4 at home, you know, Rovers have got a chance to really kick on. And first up, it's Birmingham City at Ewood. And giving us the lowdown on the Blues, we've got some EFL royalty. It's Gab Sutton. How you doing, Gab?
I'm very well, thanks, Ryan. It's lovely to be on here. I think you've got a cracking setup. I was just looking at the graphics for the intro. Looks really good there. So great to be on the show and looking forward to chatting about both our teams.
I can assure you, none of those graphics are anything to do with me. It's all
I gather
Dan
that,
and Joe. There's no way that I could produce such excellent stuff. So it's all Dan and Joe's hard work, that stuff. And yeah, Rovers fans watching, as you know, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you aren't already. Please give this video a big like for us, and please turn on all notifications using that bell icon. Super Chat is available, as it always is. And we always say a very big thank you to our sponsors, Blue Rose Capital and sixyardsout.com. And then the final bit, do keep donating to our charity cause this month, all in aid of the Sporting Memories Foundation. Go to www.rcdonate.com. If you've not donated yet, no matter how small it is, every pound is 1 raffle ticket. You're in with a chance of winning some great prizes, including a John Buckley signed shirt. So go and check that out if you have not already. So there we are. I'll just dip into the comments before we start. AH Robbins talk. Yes, we both know you. I think I spoke to you a few weeks ago. Good to see you. And then who else have we got here? Steve, Rovers being linked with Tony Watt. Yeah, we won't go into that one, Steve, but hello to Rovers fans joining us. So, Gab, let's make a start then.
Sure.
Birmingham have always been a bit of an awkward side for Rovers. 1 win out of 4 at Ewood, 1 win in 7 before last season as well, before we did the doubles. You've always been a bit of an awkward side. And actually, I've been looking into some of the basic stats on Birmingham this season, and there's quite a big similarities between how we play, despite the difference in league position. We'll come on to that in a moment, but
Sure.
How has the season been so far for the Blues?
It's been a season, I would say, of transition. I know that not everyone likes that word, or maybe that word's a bit of a cop-out for some people, because, of course, you're not in football to finish 16th, 15th in the Championship. You're in football to try and win things, and I get that. But at the same time, we've been in a relegation battle for much of the last 8-10 years in the Championship. And I think that has to be taken into perspective. There's still question marks over the leadership of the club upstairs. And so actually to be looking very comfortable in mid-table, the occasional talk of a playoff push, but certainly no danger of relegation, I think that's pretty good. I think really the main task for Lee Bowyer, hopefully we get some stability with him in charge over the next few years, is to try and grow the squad, because we seem to have a combination of really good loanees and experienced players and the odd sort of teenager here and there. And what I would like is some saleable assets where in the next 2 or 3 years, this is someone we can sell on for a big fee. There needs to be a bit more resale value in the squad. And I think that's the sort of thing that we've got to take into consideration, really.
And those stats I mentioned, they're only 2 basic metrics, but I just found it really interesting, and I'll flash them up in a moment. Rovers and Blues really low on possession, 23rd and 24th overall, both of us. And we've both scored 4 goals on the counter-attack as well, which is the highest in the league. And Scott
I thought you'd be
Parker...
higher than us, actually, on that.
Yeah, and Scott Parker acknowledged just how good Rovers are in transition in games. And has that been the style for Birmingham this season also? You know, what style can we expect on Saturday when they come to Ewood?
It's an interesting one. I think, yeah, we're certainly not a possession-based side, as the stats in front of you will show. I think we've not got what you'd call searing pace. Riley McGree, he's going to go back to Charlotte FC in January. He's sort of an attacking midfielder that came in for T. Chong. But actually, if you look at us up top, whereas you've got someone like Ben Brereton Diaz, as he's now called, he's got an obvious threat on the counter-attack. Maybe you'd put Doolan in that category. There's a few other players that can really run in behind, like Rida Kadra as well. We've got, you know, pretty old strikers in Scott Hogan, Troy Deeney and Lucas Djukovic who aren't especially quick. So I wouldn't call us a counter-attacking side, even if we're not that possession-based. I think for us, mainly it's been set pieces a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to see the similarities and obviously the goals for Rovers. You know, I think it's 12 more than Birmingham that we've got. So clearly, you know, we're a bit more clinical in that sense. So manager-wise, then, you just mentioned him. You know, Lee Bowyer's been in charge for 9 months now, and you know,
Yeah.
was 18th place last season, but he was just picking up the pieces of that reign of Aitor Karanka, wasn't he? So you're currently in 15th place, 7 wins, 6 draws, 9 defeats. You know, what is the view on the job that he's done so far, and you know, what were the aspirations coming into the season, really?
Yeah, we're really happy with the job Lee Bowyer's done so far. I think it's very easily forgotten that when he took over in March, we were in the relegation zone, and we ended up staying up comfortably with a few games to spare, pretty much. And this season, we've improved again. So there's been continual progression, I think, under Lee Bowyer. It's interesting. Some people might remember him from his Leeds days, from his West Ham days, when he was quite a feisty fella. He seems to have mellowed a little bit. I don't know whether, you know, that's what happens if you spend a certain number of years by lakes in France doing some fishing. Maybe it was quite therapeutic, perhaps. But I think we're seeing a different side to Lee Bowyer, and yeah, we're making progress. And I just hope that he stays in charge for the next 2 or 3 years, because, you know, under Gary Rowett, when he did a brilliant job, unfortunately we couldn't quite have some stability there. And then Gary Monk, I think that we're making some similar progress under him, and then that was upheld by a sort of conflict between him and the board. So I'm just hoping that we can have some stability under Bowyer, because we're really happy with the job that he's doing.
And the league is wide open. It always is,
isn't it?
but in particular this season. So
Yeah.
Are there any Blues fans harbouring any hopes of a playoff surge? You know, is only an 8-point gap, you know, a few wins and you could be up there. Is there any fans thinking that way?
Do you know, Ryan, I would love it if we had this sort of championship season next season, because, you know, we'd be a sort of another year on our development, hopefully still with Bowyer in charge. We might be able to piece something together that would be able to take advantage of this, as you quite rightly call it, just a wide open playoff scramble, where you look at Fulham stand outside in the division. I think at the moment it's looking like Bournemouth and West Brom probably going to end up tussling for that second spot. Unfortunately, I see Blackburn more in the mix for the playoffs this season, but you could throw a blanket over so many teams. And yeah, I'm just hoping that we can have a little bit of continuity, hopefully keep some of our best players and start to build something, because I think maybe next season we could challenge for the playoffs. I just think that to jump from 18th into the playoffs this season is probably a bit too much to ask.
I think especially with everyone beating everyone as well, isn't it? It's just a lot of ground to make up. But you never know. You never know. There could be a crazy run of form. Just before I go back onto the game, Steve just picked up an interesting one. You know, let's address this. You know, you and I were just chatting about this off camera, weren't we? Gab, so Steve's comment, what do you guys think about the prospect of games being played behind closed doors again? I mean, Steve, you know, if that happens, you know, really disappointing for the fans. It's been so great to be back this season. And, you know, I've been there from the Swansea game on the opening day and pretty much every game ever since. So it'll be a real shame if it happens. But obviously the health of the nation comes first. And if they do need to do that, then obviously we've just got to trust that the authorities are making the right decision. I personally think the Rovers players will miss us. I think they've thrived off the fans being back, particularly at Ewood this season. It's been a bit of a fortress. And obviously, Gab, for for Birmingham, St Andrews, they make noise as well, don't they? So what's your view on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was probably one of the factors behind the season we had last year. It was partly, obviously on the one hand, Ita Karanka probably isn't the most charismatic of managers, certainly not for us, and then to have that added element of not having the fans sort of lifting the players when they needed it, it felt a bit sort of stale, and that's changed a bit. We've got a bit more energy behind the club, and it would be a real shame if fans at matches were to be cancelled. Obviously, the health of the nation, as you quite rightly say, has to be put first, and that's the absolute number one priority. But yeah, it would be as well as looking at the health aspect of it. You've also got to look at the social aspect and the economic aspect, and how many clubs up and down the country would massively struggle if they had to go again without gate income. Some big dilemmas. I don't necessarily see the people at the top having the solutions to help us through this pandemic. Lower league clubs especially are relying on supporters, and especially in the Championship where clubs are paying goodness knows what in terms of wages. That's a bit of a worry for sure.
It does feel like the writing's on the wall a little bit, Steve, with that comment. I think there's a big difference. It seems to be a lot of the players have got COVID at the moment. So, the games are being cancelled because people can't put squads out. So, look, let's think positive about it. We're starting 2022 with a lot of people vaccinated. So even if it is a temporary period where fans aren't there or games are postponed, hopefully we can pick it back up, once we're over the blip. But as Gab and I have said, the health of the nation is first, isn't it?
And just to sort of add to that, I think there's maybe this mistaken confidence, I suppose, that it's just something that affects old people, COVID, when actually the statistics that are showing that footballers who, mainly those probably who haven't been vaccinated, are being affected. And these are players 20 to 30 roughly, the very fit athletes, and they're being affected. So no one's safe from COVID, and we've all got to take the appropriate measures and treat it and take it very seriously.
Absolutely. And Kevin, I've just spotted your comment here. Little late, currently suffering with COVID effects. Kevin, stay safe. I hope everything's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, wish you speedy recovery there, mate. So let's get back to it then, Gab. So playing wise, playing staff wise, couple of key performers going forward. You've mentioned them already. Scott Hogan with 6 goals, Troy Deeney 4 goals and 3 assists as well. And they're 2 players that have obviously got pedigree at this level. So, how have they been this season? Brereton Diaz has been grabbing loads of headlines, but how have these 2 done?
Yeah, they've combined really well, I think, Ryan. Early in the season, we obviously had Lucas Djukovic and partnering Scott Hogan, and Djukovic is that they were there for the 5-0 win at Luton, which was the best performance of the season. So you've got to give them some credit. But I think with Djukovic, he's very good in the air. But he's not so great with the ball at his feet. So he's kind of the player that you'd want to bring on in the second half if you need to if you need a goal, if you need to push everyone forward, swing constant crosses into the box and put the opposition under pressure. But I think what you get with Troy Deeney is he's good in the air, but he's also good with his chest. He's also good with his feet, and he's got a very quick mind. So you can get the ball to his chest or his feet and he'll swivel and he'll play Hogan in. And although Hogan's not super quick, he's quite good in sort of short spaces, just getting a run over a defender. So that partnership in flashes has worked pretty well, Ryan. And I think really the aim for us is going to be to try and get a bit more service into Deeney and Hogan. I think earlier in the season, we were generally creating a lot of chances and maybe not always getting everything we deserved from our games. And I think that more recently with that partnership of Deeney and Hogan, it's actually more a case of the strikers doing brilliantly and maybe the midfield and the service not quite being at the level that we'd like. So, we like Deeney and Hogan.
And Deeney, I mean, it was a great story, him going back, and I've always liked Deeney as a striker, to be fair. And you mentioned, obviously, service into the strikers. Chong was getting a lot of early season plaudits. So, you know, who has stood out in the kind of midfield and attacking areas in that sense? Is it still Chong, or has there been others who have been playing well recently?
Well, Ryan, you're very right to mention Chong because he was a fantastic player for us, and his dribbling ability was brilliant, and he was, our main creative outlet really on loan from Manchester United. Unfortunately, about a month or two ago, he picked up a really bad injury, which means he's not going to be available until at some point in the second half of the season. So the number 10 position in Lee Bowyer's 3-4-1-2 has been a bit of a dilemma, especially with Riley McGree in and out. McGree is very much a direct runner. I don't think he's got quite the same sort of footballing mind as someone like Heath Chong. And really, I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is injuries and suspensions have hit us a little bit. And we've maybe, got a few players back in the last couple of games, which has helped us. But right wing back, we've had Maxine Collan out, who's a really good right wing back, I think. Even Jordan Graham, who would be our second choice right wing back, he spent time absent. So we had to sort of improvise a little bit there. We've had one or two injuries in defence. I think Jeremy Bayer's had a bit of time out at times. So, injuries have affected us a little bit. And to be honest, I don't think in terms of squad depth, Blues and Blackburn are necessarily miles apart. I just think that maybe with Rovers, your lot will feel that you've been quite glad to have been a bit fortunate in terms of injuries, and maybe we've fallen off a little bit in that respect. Rovers fans, by all means, comment if you disagree with me on that. But that's the impression that I get, and I think just injuries have taken us away from it a little bit.
Yeah, we haven't done too bad injuries-wise. We had a little spell, I think it was the beginning of October when we played Blackpool away, and that really exposed some defensive frailties. We had Tyler McGlaw at right back. I think there were 3 or 4 defenders out. But on the whole, it's felt okay in terms of our squad depth, and I think that has contributed into our form. Start of the season, it was very much a 4-3-3. That little spell, as I say, where we had defenders out, we've gone to this wing-back formation more recently, and again, that side's picking itself. So, yeah, I think on the whole, touch wood, I'll touch a bit of wood there, it's been okay.
Do you mind if I sort of jump in a little bit on that? Because I know you're here to talk about Blues, obviously, but I'm kind of interested to get your take on, the expectations for Rovers, because the second tier pod did a thing saying we're not quite sure Blackburn are going to stay in contention, or we're not sure they're going to finish in the top 6. We think they might drop off. And there was a lot of Blackburn fans that were very annoyed about that. They thought that it was sort of spouting nonsense. And yet, 2-3 months ago, you'd only have to go back to sort of September, October, where probably the view of a lot of Blackburn fans would be, has Tony Mowbray taken us as far as he can go, even as he can, even up to the 7-0 defeat to Fulham. What's the stance now? And do you feel like it's almost swung from one extreme to the other, or what do you feel about the job Tony Mowbray is doing and what Blackburn can achieve this season?
Oh, it's absolutely swung from one extreme. And full disclosure, I had Rovers down in 18th this season because I thought we'd really struggle with losing Armstrong and Harvey Elliott. And that's on video. You can find one of the Rovers chat videos.
I had going down, so
yeah, so I had us in 18th. I just thought we'd struggle in terms of the quality. No one knew that Brereton Diaz was going to do what he's doing, and he's kind of been a real linchpin and a glue for what's going on. I think, obviously, with the disappointment of last season, it felt a much stronger squad. We had strength in depth across the whole field. And you kind of think, well, if Mowbray can't get that side into the playoffs, then what's he going to do with this one? So then when we did that dip in October, it obviously brought all of those feelings to the fore. Yeah. You lose 7-0 at home to Fulham. It's like, right, that's it. He's got to go. And I think if most fans are being honest, most fans probably said that's the time that he's got to go. But I tell you what, the one thing Mowbray has done really well, and the thing that he's done well throughout his whole job, actually, he builds a character, he builds a dressing room, he builds a set of players that like each other and want to play for each other. And following that 7-0 defeat, obviously, they've all come together really nicely. And it reaches a point now as a fan, this is game 23 against Birmingham. If you're not believing that you can make the playoffs when you're in the playoffs halfway through a season, then whenever is it going to happen? And we've never been in the top 6, in this kind of way. And as Steve says there, that's where my mind was just about to go. This has been a real key thing for us, consistency of squad selection. Mowbray has been chopping and changing throughout his whole tenure, really. But actually, he settled on a really good 4-3-3 early on. now we're into the wing backs. Players like Tyrese Dolan haven't had a look in the last 2 or 3 games, which would have been unheard of early on in the season, just because he's created that competition in the squad. So I think he's done a really good job, Mowbray. And Rovers fans, we are a funny bunch sometimes, and it is one extreme to the other. And it's just, we're enjoying the ride, Gab.
Yeah.
Let's just stay on the wagon. Let's see what happens, see if we can make playoffs. And, you've got to say Mowbray overall has done a good job, but 7-0 record defeat, that hurt.
Of course, yeah. And also I just like to sort of add to that, this is, modern football fans, like that there is an element of extremism, and that kind of comes with the territory. I'm sure a lot of Leeds fans are like that. So this is by no means a dig at Rovers fans. And of course, football is an emotive sport as well. People do feel strongly about things. So of course, that comes into it as well.
And I think maybe some of the reaction from Rovers fans came from the fact that obviously we are actually seeing something that feels a bit different. We feel like we've got this underbelly. We feel like we've got some grit. We've got some fight. We're getting results with a lot less possession. All of these things are kind of thinking, well, actually, we're probably here to stay because, we're not needing to batter sides and we're getting the job done. So, do I expect us to come in the top 6? Possibly not. Am I willing us on? Am I at every game thinking we can? Absolutely. That's what you do as a fan, isn't it? And it's a brilliant ride. I'm loving it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that was a good little chat. So thank you for asking that. Back onto this. So you, as our guests always do on this show, have sent us a predicted 11 for the game, which I can flash up here. The system is a 3-4-1-2. So just talk us through this side, Gab. Obviously, you mentioned some injuries. So if there are players filling in for others, let us know who's not first choice and things, and talk us through who might cause us some problems on Saturday.
Yeah, well, Ryan Woods is back from suspension, which I feel is a plus for Blues. He's someone who keeps the game ticking over. He's tied in possession, got lots of energy. Him and Sunic, who's much more of a ball winner. I think Dion Sanderson is our right-sided defender. He's a Premier League defender in waiting, I think. I'd imagine Wolves are going to recall him in January, because I certainly think he can play in the division above now. He's got plenty of experience in the Championship and League One already, and he's strong, he's quick, he's good on the ball. So he pretty much ticks all the boxes. So you'll have to keep an eye out for him. I think there's been a few people suggesting Jeremy Bayer could get poached as well by Premier League, because he's out of contract in the summer. And what's interesting about Bayer is he came to Blues as a right winger, and he was very good at sort of just getting to the byline and putting a cross in, and did pretty well in his first season. And I remember thinking, so I'm going to try and take a bit of credit for this, thinking he could be converted into a right wing back. But obviously there was a downside to that with Maxime Collin being such an important player. But actually this season, what Lee Bowyer's done is convert him into a left wing back. And he's been, certainly at the beginning of the season, absolutely outstanding. Dropped off a little bit sort of more recently, maybe affected a little bit by injuries, but he's someone who's got a lot of quality. Can drive forward as well. You'll have to look for his underlapping runs, because he can definitely carry a threat.
Awesome. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. You caught me by surprise there. I thought you were going to keep talking a little bit more.
I'm a surprising man, Ryan.
And if there are any areas of weakness, how can Rovers hurt Birmingham on Saturday? How can we get at you?
I think that in terms of Mark Roberts is the set defender in the middle of the back three. We've sometimes questioned him a bit because he's not the most mobile. He's quite a basic defender, I would say. We've just given him a new contract till 2023, 24, maybe something like that. So we've shown a bit of faith in him. I think there's probably a value in just having a bit of continuity. And I suppose over the next couple of seasons, we're probably going to be looking to build around Roberts, Woods and Sunic. He's not the most mobile defender in the world, so obviously we're not going to want a Tyrese Dolan or a Ben Brereton sort of running at him so much. That risk is negated a little bit by him being in the middle of a back three rather than in a back four, because you've got wide centre backs that are comfortable one-on-ones in wide areas. Sanderson and Pedersen can both do that quite well. But if there's that chance that if you catch Sanderson or Pedersen high up the pitch, then maybe you might be able to get someone running at Roberts. And I think that's probably what Mowbray is going to be looking for.
So, Gab, we've reached the part of the show where I put you and I on the spot then with our score predictions. So I'm going to start with you first. What's your prediction? How do you think the game's going to go? And Rovers fans, as ever, please load the comments box and we'll run through them at the end of the show and see how you're feeling about the game. So, yeah, Gab, what's your thoughts?
I'm thinking it might be quite a tight game. I think that obviously Blues are going to look to get Deeney and Hogan combining, and obviously your lot have got a threat with Brereton and John Buckley as well has really impressed me this season, so that's obviously a threat. But I've got a feeling there's not going to be an awful lot of chances in the game. I think both sides are going to look to be pretty compact and be well structured against the ball and off the ball. So I'm going to go for a low scoring game, probably a 1-1.
1-1. Now, it would not surprise me if Rovers drew this game because, as I say, Birmingham are an awkward side for us. And I'm really intrigued about, you're a low possession side as well and just forcing us to grab the ball a little bit. And I think this is a game where we need to see our wing-backs go forward finally, because Mowbray's been deploying wing-backs as more defensive wing-backs to make us have a 5. And I just really want to see Harry Pickering in particular just get down and cause you some problems. And if you are going to kind of sit back and maybe go on the counter, that's what I want to see from our style of play. So I think we might have to do things a little bit differently on Saturday just to break you down a little bit. But I do fancy us for the result. The only slight concern I've got, we don't know who out of the Rovers squad has got COVID. There's 2 of them that have got COVID. And, if it's Joe Rothwell and Brereton, for example, kind of a different dynamic on the game there. So that's my only little urge of caution. I'm going to say 2-1 Rovers, Gab. I think you're going to frustrate us. You're going to cause us some problems, but I just hope that we've got the confidence to press those wing backs forward, particularly if we're not worried about the counter-attack. You said you're not a counter-attacking side. So hopefully the likes of Van Hecker and Ayala can take care of Deeney and Hogan. So, yeah, 2-1 Rovers I'm going for.
Yeah, the other thing I'd say is my prediction is 1-1, and that was the score the first time I ever went to Ewood Park. It was the last day of the 03-04 season, and
was that Andy Cole who scored?
Yes, Andy Cole, very good.
I remember that game, yeah.
Yeah, and we equalised through Stern John in the last minute, and I remember Graham Souness wasn't happy.
Yeah, I think I was late to that game, actually.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, because I was only young. I wasn't driving at the time. So I think my train was late and I had to walk through Blackburn. And yeah, it was a nightmare and got there late. But yeah, I remember that game 1-1.
And there's the 3-3 the following season that I was
at,
where I think you led 1-0 and then we went 3-1 up and then it finished 3-3. So
I think that was a Sky game on a Sunday, wasn't it? If I remember.
Yeah, it might have been a Sunday. Yeah, I think was it Stephen Reed who scored for your lot, maybe.
I think so. Let us know in the comments, Rovers fans. I'm struggling. I remember Savage and Dunn. They scored.
I think Matt Jansen might have got one for your lot.
Yeah, so I remember that 3-3. So we've had a couple of predictions. Sorry, Gab, it's pretty unanimous. Steve 3-0 Rovers, Kevin 3-0 Rovers, Dizzy 1-0 Rovers, and Andy 3-1 Rovers, given the confidence running through the side. And Andy, we've got to be confident, haven't we? We've got to be going into it, with all the greatest respect to Birmingham. If Rovers are a playoff side, 3 out of the next 4 games at home, we've got to be thinking, right, we've got to be beating Birmingham at home. We've got to be beating Barnsley at home. We've got to be beating Huddersfield at home. That's a test of your credentials as much as going down to Bournemouth and beating them is. So there we go. Paul, Rovers player got COVID and he was at Bournemouth. Yeah, so it's one of those, isn't it, Paul? So we'll have to see.
To be honest, mate, I think it's going to get called off. I know that's quite a bad thing to say on a match preview. So you'll be glad that I'm saying this at the end. But I do have a feeling that we're getting towards a situation where all the clubs are kind of looking at what's happening elsewhere across the country. There's already been 10 games across English professional football that have been called off. So I would be quite doubtful about whether the game would actually go ahead.
It's just got that air about it. I always remember when it first got cancelled, stuff was happening. And then as soon as Mikel Arteta got COVID, it was like, right, needs to stop. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be that tipping point where it's like, right, that's it. So we'll see what happens. Oh, here we go. Here's Joe. That's who makes all the graphics. Rovers Analytics, Joe Harvey. I just hope the game happens. Sad they can't make. Sorry, Joe, that you can't make that. So there we go. There's no more predictions. Sorry, Gab. That was pretty unanimous from a Rovers point of view. That's probably the most positive we've been all season. So you know what's happening. Birmingham are going to frustrate us, aren't they?
Let's hope so. I mean, to be honest, I'm not. Although you're a fair few places above us, and if you do beat us 3-0, then I'll probably make me look like a right idiot. But I would say that I don't go into this game being scared of Rovers. I'm respectful of Rovers because you're having a fantastic season, and all credit to Tony Mowbray and Brereton Diaz and all the rest of it. But I don't look at Rovers and think, God, we're miles off them. I think that if we put in a good performance, I think we can compete. And
I think that's how any championship side's got to feel. Bournemouth on Saturday, I wasn't going there thinking we're playing Man City or Liverpool away. It felt like, it was a side that we could go and win. So absolutely, you got to think that way. And Gab, just for those of you that don't know you, I described you as EFL royalty for a reason. So just tell the Rovers viewers, what you do on your channel and everything you do, because you do some top stuff.
Well, if you insist on calling me EFL royalty, then I suppose I'll have to. No, I really appreciate that, Ryan. Yeah, I like to sort of talk and write about all things EFL, really, and just give these leagues the coverage that they deserve. So, if you like my stuff, you can follow me on Twitter @GabSutton, and you can also follow the hashtag EFL Debate. I speak to fans, sometimes players, sometimes managers, sometimes even chairmen in the EFL. So, lots of wide variety of people involved. So, I've had a lot of fun with it. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, then do get involved.
No, it's a cracking show, mate. Cracking channel. So you're a good friend of the show. And I didn't realize you supported Birmingham until today when Dan was like, "Oh, we've got Gab on." I was like, "Oh, does he support Birmingham?" So I never knew that. I don't know why I'd not picked that up, but there you go. I told you I was thick, didn't I? So there we go. And as Joe says here we go. Thanks for coming on, Gab, and keep well. Absolutely.
Cheers, Joe. Top man.
So that's it, Rovers fans. So we hope the game goes ahead on Saturday. If not, the main thing is for everyone to stay safe. And obviously at Rovers Chat, we will try and think of ways to keep you entertained if the game isn't going on. But first and foremost, everyone's health comes first. As I said earlier, if you've not checked out rcdonate.com, please go and donate to the Sporting Memories Foundation. And you can get yourself in the hat for some good prizes, such as the John Buckley signed shirt. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please give this video a big like for us. And I'll finish by just saying thank you to Blue Rose Capital and 6 Yards Out. A big thank you to Gab. You have a good evening, mate. Thanks, I will see the rest of you soon, Rovers fans. Stay safe. Have a good evening. See you later. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.